Hello everyone, this is Sorry and Target welcoming you back to the next entry in our Carnivores mod showcase series, where today we're taking a brief look at one of the most highly requested Carnivores mods I've ever been asked to showcase here on the channel. The Extended Canon mod, an extremely old but popular and ambitious mod that features over 50 huntable dinosaurs. Now, despite getting near constant requests to showcase this mod, I've always been a bit hesitant on how or even if I would ever showcase it, because approaching it from a review standpoint, this mod is simultaneously intimidating and underwhelming. The Extended Canon mod is basically a giant early Carnivores engine programming test. It's got a ton of really cool and innovative new features, as well as an absolute crud ton of maps, dinosaurs, and weapons, but because it is so old, it's not held together all that well over the years. A lot of the features are glitchy or buggy, it can only be run in software mode, yeah, get out while you can, and just feels very chaotic and unorganized. It's not like Carnivores Triassic, where it's telling a specific story with specific characters and creatures in a specific part of the world. It's kinda just a giant mixing pot of whatever new Carnivores assets the community had at the time. There's no rhyme or reason to the maps or dinosaurs or weapons, they're just there to test what the engine can do. It is quantity over quality. So in that regard, there's no real way to sit down and showcase this thing traditionally, because there's no real in-depth lore or story to chew on with this mod. It's all old stuff we've either seen a million times before or done better elsewhere. But it is innovative, it's well known, and I want to archive it and give it its proper respect here on the channel. Plus, you guys want to see it showcased, so I figured for this one, we'd just rapid fire through everything this mod has as quickly as possible, while stopping to talk about the new, significant features, just so you guys can see all that it has to offer, and so its pioneering work can get some proper recognition. And as always with these mod showcases, if you'd like to try out the Extended Canon mod for yourself, there's a download link in the description below. So strap yourselves in everyone, and let's begin. You'll begin your Extended Canon adventure by signing into Dino Hunt Corp's waiver, same as usual. The sign-in screen features a couple of subtle new visual elements, but as far as function goes, it's your typical Carnivores fare. I actually really like the menu artwork here, with a brutish looking Carnotaurus hunting in the forests of Fort Siskin. There's depth of field and some nice lighting effects, including a bit of bloom and some ominous shadows. It feels classic Carnivores, and while I don't care much for the placement of the mod's logo at the bottom center, as opposed to the top left corner where they usually go, it's at least done in the classic bone letter style, which I do appreciate. You'll probably notice that the player info text is now green, and the currency, instead of classic Carnivores credits or points, is now dealt in actual dollar cash, which is an interesting change that wouldn't see any sort of return until Carnivores HD a few years later. And speaking of Tatum, the menu theme is actually the entire Carnivores mobile port launch trailer audio, which seems fitting given where the franchise was when this mod came out. Interestingly, however, the menu music doesn't restart when you return from a hunt like in other Carnivores mods. It picks up where it would have been had it been playing the entire time. So you may come back from a stressful hunt only to be jump scared by blaring trumpets or a Tyrannosaurus roar. I'm not sure if that was the programmers flexing or just a byproduct of the mod's other programmed features, but it's an addition that I personally don't really care for. The credits are, unfortunately, untouched from the base game, and the options menu looks a little bare, given that some optimization features had to be cut in order for this mod to work. But perhaps most curiously, your hunt statistics are never displayed, and that's an odd feature that carries over to the actual hunt menu as well. No menu information for anything, maps, dinosaurs, or weapons, ever appears unless you press a key, and that's any key on the keyboard, where they appear only for a few seconds and then disappear. Now I assume that's intentional, as most of the menu information is just inaccurate holdovers from the vanilla games, and to be honest, that kinda comes across as lazy to me. Sure, this mod is just a programming test, but it could have at least clued players in on some information about the way the new Dinosaur AI works, or actual accurate weapon information, since some of the weapons are brand new or heavily altered from their original builds. As it stands, the mod just kinda throws you in blind, hoping you already know what's going on. And I suppose that's reflective on how this mod has no story or context, as it's just a big melting pot of asset testing, but something, anything would have been nice. As it stands, it's just a messy, unpolished slather of options on top of the default Carnivores 2 menu layout. And again, most of the price listings are out of order, which never fails to drive me crazy. I can forgive the dinosaur listings being out of order because the AI have to stay in a certain order on the roster, but maps and weapons have no excuse. They can literally be reordered in any order. So why do they rarely seem to be listed in the correct order ascension of pricing? I don't know guys, like I get that I can't really fault this mod because of its age and what it is, but I just feel like its menus could have been done better. The mod features some fade in, fade out effects when starting or exiting a hunt, which is ultimately pretty inconsequential, but again, it's great to know that the community is capable of implementing these things should they desire them. There are a few minor changes to the equipment. You can call in the supply ship to refuel mid-hunt, although the ship itself is invisible. The binoculars have been simplified to a more traditional hand-cupped look. The radar is distractingly inaccurate this time. I mean, radar in Carnivores has never been pinpoint, but now even when indicating that you're right on top of a dinosaur, the dinosaur could actually be anywhere within a couple hundred feet of you. And the tranquilizers option has been moved from a weapon perk into the actual equipment section. The trophy ship is there as usual to haul away your kills, nothing new there, but the trophy room itself is, well, different. For some unexplained reason, you enter the trophy room at night, all bathed in the harsh greens and blacks of night vision, and honestly, it looks pretty awful. Now, I do have a theory as to why this is that we'll get to in a bit, but man, I hardly ever bother with the trophy room in this mod. It is rough, especially if you're comparing it nowadays to the gorgeous custom themed maps of like Carnivores Plus or Carnivores Triassic. The extended Canon mod actually features 10 maps, the most of any Carnivores mod ever, as the newer engines that more modern mods use cap out at 8 maps. Also, fun fact, this is the only Carnivores mod that doesn't start players with a map pre-selected once you enter the hunt menu, and the only one that allows players to actually deselect maps entirely. Inconsequential, yeah, but I thought it was neat. Like I mentioned earlier, there are no new maps in this mod. The map selection is just a huge dumping ground of whatever old or revamped maps the community had at the time, and they all follow a pretty traditional unlocking order. The first one unlocked at $20 is Delphius Hills, next at $50 is the Woods of Turan Chalks, then at $75 is Bazmashi Rocks, at $100 you unlock Fort Siskin, next at $150 is Vengar Fjords, then at $200 is Manya Jungle, followed by Revaran's Bridge at $300, at $400 you unlock Mount Ravan, then the Ancient Temple at $500, and finally you unlock the future Great Lake at $750. Now, this mod does use the Carnivores 2 engine to run, or at least a modified version of it. And since the Carnivores 1 maps are roughly 1/4 the size of the Carnivores 2 maps, this mod uses the extended versions of the Carnivores 1 maps to fill in the extra space. Unfortunately, they're the old Carnivores Reloaded versions of those extended areas, the ones that are really angular and blocky and artificial looking and cluttered with random assets for the sake of having more stuff. And it's actually pretty painful going back to those old Reloaded maps. They have not aged well, for a number of reasons. So I personally always either restart until I land on the classic Carnivores 1 part of the map, or just hunt on a Carnivores 2 map. Aside from a few map ambients placed here and there, these maps are pretty much identical to their Carnivores 2, Carnivores Ice Age, or Carnivores Reloaded counterparts. And because you have to run the mod in software mode, a lot of the maps are actually missing their most iconic features, like the huts in Fort Siskin or the bridge on Reveren's Bridge. I suppose the one positive this mod has as far as maps go is that it is a home for the future Great Lake, a map that I have a real soft spot for. Granted, Morrison's Maze is a more than worthy replacement for it in Carnivores Plus, like it's not even close. But a part of me is always glad to revisit this old lush and colorful reskin map. But you can only play this mod in software mode, so I always gotta ask myself, is it even worth it to revisit the future Great Lake in this state? The extended canon mod features 63 prehistoric creatures populating the world, with 53 of them being huntable animals, and the remaining 10 being ambient animals. So what makes this mod so special and innovative and stand out from other Carnivores mods is that those 63 creatures are not in separate DLC packs that you have to download or install or make separate files for like in other Carnivores mods. More details on that process in a video here. All 63 creatures come pre-programmed into the mod, all at once, right from the start. The extended canon mod uses what I can best describe as a more ambitious prototype version of the alphas method that allows mods to basically attach an additional dinosaur to an AI slot. This method was unveiled by Ornithomimid 1 and has been most notably used in Carnivores Fallen Kings, which features a special variant of certain dinosaur types alongside their normal counterparts, like the parrot-skinned Psittacosaurus or the pack leader Tanicolagrius. But the extended canon mod actually bumps that concept up a notch and assigns multiple dinosaur genera to a single AI slot that can spawn alongside each other at complete random. For example, the Ankylosaurus AI slot includes Ankylosaurus, naturally, but also includes dinosaurs like Avamimus, Ornithomimus, Protoceratops, and Sauropelta, among others that can all spawn in together at the same time. So if you select all AI slots for a hunt like the mod requests you do, you can have any number of these 53 huntable dinosaurs spawn in any number of different combinations, creating virtually endless amounts of unique and custom hunting scenarios. Now, because of the limitations of the Carnivores engine, you can't actually select any of these specific dinosaurs to hunt. You can only select the specific AI you want to hunt, and that will spawn in the dinosaurs available on that AI slot at random. So for example, if you want to hunt a Kentrosaurus, you'll just have to select Stegosaurus AI and hope a Kentrosaurus spawns in somewhere. And this unpredictability ties into the other trophy room feature I mentioned earlier. Now I believe, this is just a theory, because of the way this mod handles the AI, your trophies randomize every time you enter the trophy room. So again, for example, let's say you manage to kill a Carnotaurus. When you go to view it in the trophy room, it might be a Carnotaurus, it might be a Ceratosaurus. And then if you leave and come back, it might be a Monolophosaurus, or it might be a Carnotaurus, or it might not. Again, it kind of just randomizes which dinosaur will appear on the AI slot each time, like it does during hunts. So it may randomly choose the same dinosaur twice in a row, or once every 200 entries into the trophy room. And because of this limitation, the mod only shows the name of the base dinosaur on the AI. So every dinosaur on Chasmosaurus AI will just show up as Chasmosaurus with Chasmosaurus statistics. This is why I personally think your trophy room trips take place at night, kinda in an attempt to just hide the dinosaurs in darkness, because they're not what they're supposed to be or what hunters might be expecting. Now, I don't know if that's the actual reason, that's just my dumb theory and I could very well be wrong, but that's the only good reason I could think of as to why the trophy room is masked in the darkness of night and then obscured by night vision. In addition, the dinosaur spawn rates have been adjusted per AI, which is a feature that I absolutely love. With all of the AI selected, you'll spawn in around 25 to 30 dinosaurs on a map, and the higher up on the roster you go, the more scarce they become. With only around Spinosaurus AI creatures selected, the spawn rates drop to about 8 to 12 animals. and with only Tyrannosaurus AI selected, only 1 to 3 animals spawn in, which is wonderful. Why can't all mods have this feature? As mentioned earlier, the extended Canon mod features 10 ambient animals, but interestingly, none of them are terrestrial creatures, or at least strictly land-based creatures. There are pterosaurs in the sky and sauropods in the lakes and oceans, but no strictly terrestrial animals like Dimetrodon or Moschops. This is an odd choice, or maybe a programming limitation, that does make the islands feel quite barren sometimes. Amphibious ambient creatures include the classic Brachiosaurus, as well as Camarasaurus, Diplodocus, Volcanodon, and Koolasuchus. A few of these creatures will even spawn in randomly as map ambients to help fill the space left by the traditional terrestrial ambient animals. But because they're map ambients with basic animations randomly plopped out in the open, their impact on the gameplay and environment is minimal at best. Aerial ambient animals include a host of carnivores creatures new and old, including Dimorphodon, Pteranodon, and Archaeopteryx, as well as newcomers Rhamphorhynchus and Nyctosaurus. However, the standout of these aerial creatures is the Pteranodon, which doesn't just return as its classic Carnivores 2 depiction, but actually comes in 4 different species: Ingens, Longiceps, Sternbergi, and Maci, each with their own sexual dimorphism variations, species-specific gliding positions, and even seasonal colorations and rarity. Honestly, the amount of quality and effort packed into the Pteranodon specifically is genuinely impressive. There's even an entire chart detailing each species and their differences, and the attention to detail on this thing is staggering. Like, why Pteranodon? It's so freaking random and out of nowhere, but I kinda love it. Again, as mentioned, the extended Canon mod features 53 huntable animals, far more than pretty much every other Carnivores mod with the exception of Jurassic Park Hunter Legends' 84 creature count. 10 of the 11 legacy Carnivores dinosaurs return for this mod, with only the Parasaurolophus being strangely absent from the roster. The extended Canon's huntable roster alphabetically is as follows: Acrocanthosaurus, Albertosaurus, Allosaurus, Ankylosaurus, Rhinoceratops, Avamimus, Baryonyx, Bapiausaurus, Camptosaurus, Carcharodontosaurus, Carnotaurus, Ceratosaurus, Chasmosaurus, which actually comes in a couple of variants, the classic Carnivores 2 version, and a variant with a modified frill to look more like a Chasmosaurus and less like a Triceratops. Cryolophosaurus, Deinonychus, Dilophosaurus, Dromaeosaurus, Dryosaurus, Edmontosaurus, Eucentrosaurus, Gallimimus, yeah I know right, Gargoylosaurus, Gastonia, Giganotosaurus, Hylaeosaurus, Hypsilophodon, Iguanodon, Kentrosaurus, Liliensternus, Maiasaura, Megalosaurus, Metriacanthosaurus, Monolophosaurus, Notosaurus, Ornithomimus, Oviraptor, Pachycephalosaurus, who in a refreshing twist has been moved to Chasmosaurus AI and is now dangerous, which I love, Pachyrhinosaurus, Pentaceratops, Procompsognathus, Protoceratops, Rugops, Saurolophus, Sauropelta, Scelidosaurus, Spinosaurus, Stegosaurus, Tojangasaurus, Triceratops, Troodon, Tyrannosaurus, Velociraptor, and Wuerhosaurus. So, to be perfectly honest, while acknowledging their tremendous impact on their time and place in Carnivores modding, I personally do not care for any of these new dinosaurs. You may recognize a few of these models from other mods we've talked about here on the channel, and whenever I criticize those mods for featuring dinosaur models that feel old and cheap and mass-produced, these are the ones I'm talking about, and hopefully now, if you didn't before, you better understand why. This mod ambitiously has over 60 animals in it. That's a crazy impressive amount. But with all that quantity comes the cost of quality. Again, it feels like these dinosaurs were hurriedly mass-produced off a conveyor belt to meet a quota. Most of them are extremely similar in build. The hadrosaurs, ankylosaurs, and ornithopods are all nearly identical to each other. They share a lot of the same skins and textures, just hue shifted. The animations are either extremely stiff and bare bones, or too wobbly and unstable. The models feel very stretched and distorted, especially on the theropods and ceratopsians with head adornments. And aside from the legacy dinosaurs, almost no animal in this entire mod has any sound effects at all. And the islands feel so silent and dead because of that. Making over 50 new creatures is a daunting task, so to save time, I imagine some corners were cut, hence the low quality, mass-produced feel a lot of these models have. That's understandable. And again, this mod is just a programming test to see what works. It's not like it's introducing these animals into Carnivores lore, it's just seeing if features like these are possible. The problem is, now the community has over 50 new free models to pluck and pillage from this mod that I don't think were ever intended to be any creature's real debut into the Carnivores universe. So now these models are all over the place across tons of mods. And by today's standards of Carnivores creature crafting, I just don't think they hold up. In fact, I've got some comparison images up right now of these mass-produced models with their current characterized counterparts in more modern mods. And I'd be astonished if anyone chose the extended canon versions of these dinosaurs over their more modern, unique, characterized designs. I mean, I'm sure the people who like Chasmosaurus or still want a big Spinosaurus would, but they don't count, right? Again, I really don't want to come across as rude or overly negative with this analysis. What this mod did as a test for the future of Carnivores modding is astounding, but I just don't think the dinosaurs themselves have aged particularly well, and should probably be left here in this mod. Not to shame or disgrace or forget them, but as reminders to appreciate just how far the community has come. The Extended Canon mod features 9 weapons, one more than most modern Carnivores mods, which usually cap out at 8, and the weapon selection here actually boasts some pretty unique and interesting features. Where in other Carnivores mods, unless you're running a specific patch, players can only cycle weapons 1 through 6 on the keyboard. But in the Extended Canon mod, players can cycle through all 9 weapons at will, greatly expanding the gameplay options during a hunt. Players can also sprint at full speed while their weapons are drawn, which comes in handy when battling speedy carnivores, and each weapon now features a floating reticle. This is a feature that I personally don't really care for. Now, because the options menu features an aim key command in addition to hide weapon, I assume the original goal of the mod was to have weapons drawn at the hip by default with a floating reticle, perhaps for close quarters battles with predators, then allowing hunters to aim down the iron sights for long range shots. However, because software mode just can't handle gameplay features like that, it looks like both features kinda got merged together, which results in an overly confusing aiming system. Plus, I'm just not a big fan of floating reticles in hunting games anyway, so even if this mod got to fulfill its potential here, I probably wouldn't be too enthused with it. The Extended Canon mod also gives players a health bar, which allows them to take damage and keep on fighting when battling dinosaurs. The amount of damage you take is dependent on the size of the dinosaur. Smaller predators like Procompsognathus and Troodon will do less damage than Monolophosaurus or Carcharodontosaurus, and certain dinosaurs will still one-shot players like the Ceratopsians and Tyrannosaurus. Personally, given the size of certain dinosaurs in this mod, I do kinda like the idea of a health bar. It doesn't make much sense to get immediately one-shotted by a dinosaur a fraction of your size. And given how difficult hunting these dinosaurs is with their wonky animations and AI and the obtrusive aiming mechanics, it is nice that the mod at least gives you a fighting chance. But at the same time, it loses a lot of the tension that comes from knowing you have one chance to save yourself if attacked, and makes the mod feel more like an action-driven FPS than a true hunting simulator. The extended Canon mod's weapon lineup includes a pistol at $30, which is a heftier handgun variant than the classic 9mm pistol from Carnivores 2, with a more unique build. And although it's just as inaccurate, I'd say it's exceptionally more powerful as opposed to the original variant. Next is a classic crossbow, or X-bow, at $75, which is a weapon that I personally think actually benefits from the new floating reticle feature, allowing players to, in essence, snipe fleeing dinosaurs with what was once a very tricky weapon to aim with. Unrealistic? Perhaps. But between an accurate pistol and an accurate bow as your starting weapons, one of them now has an ever so slight edge over the other. Next at $100 is the Dino Hunt Corp issue compound rifle, which is basically a modified X rifle from Carnivore Cityscape that fires regular ammunition now as opposed to blue energy blasts. This is an interesting weapon for sure, basically a precursor to the standard Carnivores 2 rifle. High ammo count, fast firing rate, but very low power. You can take down Ceratosaurus AI creatures with this thing, but it's going to require a bit of skill and a lot of luck. Next at $150 is a bolt action rifle, basically a precursor to the sniper rifle. This weapon doesn't pack a lot of ammunition, but it is quite powerful, if slow to reload, which makes it ideal most for hunting herbivores at medium to long range. Next at $200 is an assault rifle, which is just the standard Carnivores 2 semi-auto rifle. Nothing really assaulting about it. Now perhaps the goal was to include the auto rifle patch to make it fully automatic, until software mode's restrictive curse happened. But regardless, if you've used the Carnivores 2 rifle, you know exactly how this thing handles. Next at $275 is the pump action shotgun, which, like the Carnivores 2 rifle, is completely unchanged from its debut game, aside from more ammo. I find it truly fascinating that the extended Canon mod basically dumps all the rifles in the middle of the weapon roster and saves the shotguns for last. They're not necessarily better than the rifles. I mean, the buckshot is more effective at close range specifically, but I don't know, I find this such a distinct and interesting roster choice. Next at $400 is the sniper rifle, again, pretty much unchanged from its Carnivores 2 variant. After Carnivores 2 removed mortal zones from the animals and basically crippled the sniper rifle, it hasn't felt like an earned final weapon in any of the official games since. And that unfortunately carries over to this mod as well. So I'm actually glad it's not the final weapon unlocked this time around. Side note, I'm also really thankful most mods have put mortal zones back in. The penultimate weapon at $425 is the repeating shotgun, a semi-automatic shotgun with a drum magazine, which naturally makes it really fun to use. Despite its impressive firing rate, it's not quite as powerful as some of the other shotguns on the roster, naturally for balance sake. And I'd recommend using it for Spinosaurus AI creatures at max. Anything higher and you're probably gonna run into trouble. And finally, the final weapon available at $500 is the Advanced Shotgun, a revamp of the Carnivores 1 shotgun and the most powerful weapon in the mod. Capable of downing even the mighty Tyrannosaurus in just a couple of shots, no eyeball puncturing necessary. Its ammunition count is abysmal, however. I think with double ammo on, it has like 4 shots, so you can't go running around the map gunning down everything in sight with this weapon. But in case of emergencies, if you don't panic, it will save your life. So there's nothing particularly special about the weapons in the extended Canon mod, but there's nothing really wrong with them either. Again, they just feel like a big melting pot of Carnivores assets, old and new. The ability to cycle through all 9 weapons on the keyboard is great. Sprinting with them drawn is fun, even if a little cheap. And the floating reticles I really don't care for except on the X-bow. But on the whole, the weapon lineup is probably the most well put together roster in the entire mod. I mean, at least the weapons all have sound effects. In the end guys, the extended Canon mod is one of the most ambitious and innovative Carnivores experiences ever. As a programming test for modding a 20-year-old hunting game, it is a true marvel. But as a mod, like modern days, I feel its reach sometimes exceeds its grasp. And my criticism of this mod isn't meant to be taken as overly negative or cruel. I know what this mod is and what it was striving for, and in a lot of ways I think it works. But in just as many ways, it's a bit of a mess. It doesn't hold up that well, and I just want you guys to know what you're getting into should you boot up this old mod. The Extended Canon mod has some truly impressive features for a Carnivores mod, like 60 built-in dinosaurs, health bars, menu effects, edited spawn rates, new aiming and moving mechanics. But at the same time, because of its age and the limitations of the engine, not all of those features feel complete. Again, it's great that the programming community cracked the code to see that these new features could be done, but just as the great Goldblum once paraphrased, just because we know we can do something doesn't always mean that we should. I'd rather have a mod with 10 characterized, well-crafted, unique, and iconic creatures than 60 broken, cheap, and mass-produced ones that I never get attached to. And with new features emerging from the community all the time, like pack hunting AI and new ambient animal AI slots, the Carnivores games are still continuously evolving with more cohesion and polish than ever before. And these innovative new changes we are enjoying today are possible thanks to pioneering experiments like the Extended Canon mod. Is this mod worth downloading and playing? I personally don't think so. It's an experience for sure, but it's not one that really lasts for very long or makes you want to go back to it. However, I think it deserves to be admired and appreciated for what it's done for Carnivores modding, flaws and all. For without it, we might still be clinging to Tatum and the mobile ports for any of our new Carnivores content. Alright, so there you go guys. I hope you enjoyed our brief look at one of the most impressively ambitious Carnivores mods ever crafted, the Extended Canon mod. Again, apologies for just how superficial and straightforward this showcase had to be, but I really wasn't sure how else to tackle this mod when it's more a programming test for innovative new features than an actual lore-heavy, story-based mod with characters and themes and whatnot. But be sure to let me know what you guys think of the Extended Canon mod down in the comment section below. Any dinosaur, map, or weapon stand out to you? What's your favorite new feature from the mod? Health bar? Floating reticle? 50 huntable dinosaurs? I always love to hear from you guys. And thanks as always for watching guys. I always appreciate your continued support for this channel and community. If you enjoyed the video, do please consider leaving a like. It really does help me out. And if you're new here and want to see more Carnivores content, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss a thing. My upload schedule isn't very consistent, and you don't want to be that person who misses a video only to find it like 3 years later and see that I mispronounced something, which will urge you to leave a comment saying, "It's pronounced like this." That's how I read all those comments, by the way. And then I'll see your comment, but I'm not going to reply to it because I know that you didn't check when the video came out, which means you haven't watched any of my more recent videos to know that I've probably learned how to pronounce that correctly by now, which has only made you look like a fool because you don't care to educate anybody with your corrections. You don't want to enhance our lives with knowledge. You only seek to prove how right you are and how wrong everybody else is to boost your fragile little ego, which is something an unhealthy amount of the dinosaur community, and especially paleontological Twitter, both suffer from and need to address, so be sure to hit that bell icon. Or, you know, if the FTC and COPPA is shutting me down in just a few days and this is my last mod showcase, don't worry about it. Seriously though, thanks again for everything guys. I love you all, you are all the best, and I will see you guys next time. Hello everyone, thank you so much for watching. I genuinely appreciate it and I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you do enjoy the Carnivores games and Carnivores content on YouTube and want to help support this channel, you can do so at patreon.com/sorryandtarget. There's a link down below in the description of this video. As many of you guys know, this YouTube channel is not my job and it takes a lot of my time to work on videos. But I love doing it for you guys, and every little bit donated helps me dedicate more time to making you guys the best Carnivores content on YouTube. Thank you all for everything you do. I love you all, you are all the best, and I will see you guys next time.